Hi, my name is Deborah Fowler. I'm just going to walk you through a quick mocap demo. It's not really mocap in the sense that we're not using an FBX file with a rig. What I've done is created an assignment to practice Python. And in here we have a Python script that is bringing in files that have been massaged to be per frame so that we have our marker data. And then I'm copying a sphere to these points. One of my students was asking about bringing into Unreal, so that's what we're going to do today. So the easiest way to do that is create an Alembic. We can go to File, Export, Alembic, and then I'm going to call this mocap test.abc. I'm going to export my frame range, and then export. And it will export that to Alembic. Then we're going to bring up Unreal. So I'm in the default for Unreal project. If I hit play, you can see that it sets it up like this. Let's stop. I'm sitting in the camera. This is just my player start. I'm going to disappear that. What I want to do is import my Alembic. So I'm going to say Alembic import test mocap test ABC, which I've just written out. Open this up. And you can see it's giving me a whole bunch of things. And if I import it as a static mesh, it won't be moving. So I'm going to do a geometry cache and import. I'm going to go ahead and wait for that. And it's finished importing. So now we have mocap test. I'm going to drag this in. You can see that it is using Houdini's coordinate system. So Z is out. We are the opposite. So I'm going to type in my E key and just put this at 90 degrees. I probably also want to pick his feet out of the ground plane. And now I'll hit play and we're good to go. So if you want to light your objects in Unreal or what have you, you're set. However, I want to show you something else. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the Side Effects Labs tools and bring down an RBD to FBX. That's going to go into my output file. I've done a few here, so I'm just going to move those out of the way and take a look at this file. So our node to export is going to be, in this case, our mocap. And I'm going to hit accept. Then where do we want to export it to? I'm exporting to relative to my HIP file into an export directory, and I'm going to call this mocap demo or mocap test. I'm using an FBX file, and I might want to create specific frames. Don't really care to see that T-pose. So maybe let's start on frame, let's say 60. And we'll go to frame 122. So there's no need to keep the T-poses. We're not going to adhere a character to this. We're not retargeting. We're just simply exporting this data. I'm going to go ahead and hit render. What that's doing is exporting an FBX file. And now we're ready for Unreal. So next step, I'm going to bring up our Unreal project, no starter content. I've named this file demo160, and I put it in a folder, say create project. So if I were just importing the animation in, I would use an Alembic, straightforward. Just import the Alembic and I'm done. But I want to actually have this react to physics, and I can't do that with my Alembic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my FBX. I'm going to make sure import animations is on, and then I'm going to say import. Get a bunch of warning messages, just ignore those. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'm just going to bring in my little guy here. There he is. And you can see that he's ready to go. I'm going to hit play. And I can see that he's doing his cartwheel and he's done. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is turn on physics. So let's say I decide, well, this is very cool. Let's just take this guy and simulate physics. When I play this, it's not doing what I expect. It's not at all what I want. So what I need to do is I need to change the underlying model here. So I'm going to delete this. And what I'm going to do is going over to Mocap Test, right click, go to Create, Physics Asset, Create and Assign. Rather than Capsule, I'm going to change this to Multi-Convex Hull, and I'm going to say Create Asset. So what this does is creates a collision object for each one of those spheres that I have. And again, ignore the messages. You can see this little dialog box here. All I'm going to do is hit Save, and then close this. And now, when I grab my Mocap Test Anim, put him in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate physics. So if I play this now, he falls apart. Beautiful. Okay, so that's working, but I really want to be able to make this clickable. In other words, I want to control when I put the simulate physics on. So let's go ahead and change this little guy to turn him off. And you can see that his animation is going, but I haven't been able to control that. So what I need to do is go to Level Blueprints. I'm going to go into Open Level Blueprint. And here is where I'm going to create a node graph tree. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and right now what I want is not there. So what I need to do is select my character and then right click and create a reference to Mocap Anim 3. And that's the one I'm going to use. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create Set Simulate Physics. This will bring up a reference to the skeletal mesh. I'm good to go there. Just going to line these up so they're neat and tidy. And now what I want to do is actually simulate that, but based on a target. So how do I do that? Well, I've decided I'm going to use the spacebar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an event with the spacebar. So to give you an idea what that looks like, I'm just going to grab my website with my notes on here. So you can see this is where we're heading towards. Okay, so we've already got the top part. We're going to create a spacebar event, enable our input, and get player control so that we can then control the physics. All right, so let's go ahead and get player control. And then we're going to get our event key. So what we want to do is get keyboard event. So we don't want any key, we want our spacebar. So take a look for that. There it is. Okay, so now we have spacebar. We want when it's pressed, add that, so executive. There we go. And then what we want to do is when that gets pressed, we want to enable that input. So again, I'm going to enable input. So we get rid of that and create our input from our player. So that's going to become our player control. And then we're going to wire this into here. And then wire this into here. Okay, so now we have our spacebar set up with our player controller to enable that switch. Let's compile it. Compiles. Let's go ahead and play. I'm going to close this up. And then I'm going to make sure that my cursor is paying attention to the window. Hit spacebar and boom. Okay. So I now have an animation where I can play it and I can control when I'm going to destroy this little guy. So I did that with Flip or Roberto, and you can see when I click, they go flying. That's it. Thank you for watching.